What part of what happened a few months ago, October the 7th, where Israel suffered the worst terrorist attack in their history, so many people murdered and raped and beheaded and burned to death, and so many others taken hostage, still held by Hamas. In the United States, around the world, disgusting, hate-filled protests. All right, this is a Fox News alert. You are looking at live pictures of an anti-Israel protest on the campus of the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. And tonight, with anti-Semitic protests raging in Columbia and New York City and other elite campuses around the country, well, Senators Tom Cotton and Josh Hawley, they are now calling on Biden to take action and mobilize the National Guard to protect Jewish students. And with Senator Hawley likening the situation to Eisenhower's decision to send the National Guard to protect the Little Rock Nine. Meanwhile, Biden's rampant hypocrisy back in the spotlight tonight, this time over his use of TikTok. Remember, he just signed a law to force the sale of the app in 9 months or ban it entirely in the country. His campaign announced they're going to continue to use the Chinese-owned social media platform. You can't make it up. Here with reaction, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. Senator, let's talk about the guard that you're calling for, which I believe would be the right call. But I don't see Biden wanting to alienate his radical base. I think that's why he's not going to do it.
Well, sure. I mean, this is all about the fact that he has a pro-Hamas base, Sean. But listen, Eisenhower did the right thing back in '57 when he sent the 101st Airborne to Little Rock. Why not do it for Jewish Americans? I mean, it shouldn't be that in this country, in this day and age, that if you are a Jewish American, you fear for your life because all of these bougie jihadists at these universities whose brains are addled by TikTok are out there calling for your death, calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. I mean, what is going on these campuses? Send in the National Guard and wake these kids up. I mean, they ought to know they can't do this. They ought to know they don't have any right to occupy these campuses. They don't have any right to threaten their fellow students. They ought to snap them out of it, and the National Guard would help do it.
But aren't they supposed to be the best and brightest? Isn't it supposed to be hard to get into an Ivy League institution? Could they really be that ignorant? Do they not realize that in countries that take on Sharia law, radicalized countries like Iran, for example, if you're gay or lesbian, they'll murder you. If you're a woman and you're not fully covered, they'll beat the hell out of you, among the many other restrictions and civil rights violations. Whatever happened to the woke left in this country? Whatever happened to the belief in women's rights and gay rights and all the things they said they believe in? Are they just willing to bifurcate their brains and ignore that which they said that they were so passionate about?
Totally, 100%. That's 100% what they're willing to do, Sean. And you can just see, I mean, listen, these are the people who are standing around wearing N95 masks outdoors, doing interpretive dance, and calling for jihad. I mean, these are insane people. As I said, I mean, they're spending way too much time on TikTok and social media. Their brains are rotted, and their brains have been rotted by the university system, Sean. These universities are cash machines. They are sitting on giant endowments. They're not really educational facilities. They're giant private equity funds who have taken your money, taxpayer money, and now are using it to pump out this pro-Hamas propaganda. It's a disgrace to this country. These students are a disgrace. And all of this needs to end.
Well, we know what this is about. Joe got freaked out. Over 100,000 Democratic primary voters in Michigan voted for undecided or uncommitted, rather. That's over 100,000. That was 18.9% of Democratic presidential primary voters. 50,000 in Wisconsin. About 40,000 yesterday in Pennsylvania. So we know what he's freaked out about. Let me get your reaction. I mean, Joe Biden just signed a law that says that TikTok has to be sold in 9 months or it's going to be banned in the U.S., but his campaign announced that they're going to continue to use it. Can you explain that logic to me?
Yeah, sure. It's because his campaign is run by a bunch of pro-Hamas TikTokers. I mean, that's why. This is all about pandering to his base, and they have decided that his base are a bunch of pro-Hamas radicals. I mean, let's be honest about it. Joe Biden himself, I mean, Sean, he doesn't know how to use an iPhone. He probably doesn't know how to use a flip phone. I mean, he's not doing this. This is all about the people who are running his campaign for him, and they will do anything to pander. And I tell you what, the amount of pro-Hamas propaganda on TikTok, I mean, it is a propaganda factory, pushing out this propaganda from China, trying to divide the country, trying to destroy Jewish Americans. And the Biden administration, they're happy to go along with it because they want these people's votes.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, we really appreciate your time, Senator Josh Hawley. And I hope it's not happening in your state of Missouri. All right, when we come back, a lot more news tonight. Joe Biden may have made his worst blunder ever. And that's saying a lot. We've got the tape. You don't want to miss that. Later, also, my interview with Michael Avenatti from prison about Trump's criminal trial in New York as we continue. All right, I want everyone to pause and watch what may be Joe Biden's worst gaffe yet. That's saying a lot.
Folks, imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. Pause.
So force the crowd to chant 4 more years because they're not going to do it on their own. And when you say those words, then you shush up, and then the crowd actually gets the point and they do it on their own. 4 more years, pause. Wow. Anyway, and when the White House sent out their official transcript later today, it said inaudible instead of pause. It was very audible. This is not the first time that teleprompter was defeating Joe Biden. And unfortunately for Joe, that wasn't the only embarrassing blunder that he made this week. Take a look.
Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy? For democracy? I still sometimes cut the yard. The Secret Service doesn't let me do it anymore. Trump and his MAGA allies want to repeal the most significant investments in climate ever. The work that you risked your lives doing, lots of it. I don't know why we're surprised by Trump. How many times does he have to prove we can't be trusted?
How many times do you have to prove it? It's speeches like these that remind the American people that Joe is a cognitive mess, unfit to lead this country. Sad in many ways. Also explains why Trump is leading in the polls. I mean, massive numbers. We just have out the Morning Consult and the poll from Bloomberg that came out. And it's pretty interesting. They now have Trump leading Biden by 7 points in Arizona, 49-42, 6 points in Georgia, 49-43, 8 points in Nevada, 51-43, 10 points North Carolina. Wow. And the Republican also led his Democratic rival by 4 points in Wisconsin, but that's the only one within the margin of error. Tommy Lahren, who is fearless, of course, on Outkick is with us, as well as the co-host of the Big Money Show on Fox Business, Brian Bremberg. Tommy, start with you. That's the biggest lead Donald Trump has ever had that I've seen in the swing state polls. I think there are a lot of reasons for it. What are your thoughts? I know you think you're going to tell me Gavin Newsom is going to replace him. But before you tell me that, what do you think of the numbers?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's really unfortunate that Donald Trump hasn't been able to be on the campaign trail. But the silver lining in that is that Joe Biden seems to be on the campaign trail for Donald Trump, even saying, that he's messing everything up in his own words. So there's that. It's nice that Joe is actually out there actively campaigning for Donald Trump. But I think what's also really horrifying here with Joe Biden and him making another gaffe with his teleprompter is that he's unaware of what he's reading on the teleprompter. Oftentimes you have speechwriters, people that write things maybe a little bit better, more eloquently than you're able to. But he, quite frankly, doesn't have any idea of what's actually being written for him. He just goes up there and he reads it, which is why he says things like pause. I don't know about you, Sean, but I didn't elect his teleprompter operator, and I don't think any American did. So I'd like Joe to have a mastery of what he's going to be telling the American people, and he, quite frankly, does not at all. He's completely oblivious to what he's even talking about, and that should horrify every American.
You know, and if you look at the internals of these polls, Brian, you see that the economy, immigration are top issues. I forgot to mention, Trump would be up by 1 in Pennsylvania, up 2 in Michigan, again, up by 7 in Arizona, 6 in Georgia, 8 in Nevada, 10 points North Carolina. Those are big numbers and a big swing for a guy that's sitting in a courtroom all day dealing with an old misdemeanor count whose statute of limitations have run out with a trial held by a judge that donated to, in this case, Joe Biden in 2020, and whose family seems compromised. But they're hell-bent on letting this case go forward. Maybe it's working out for Trump. Keep Biden out there, and maybe Trump stays in the courtroom, and people get pissed at a dual system of justice.
Yeah, I think Biden is doing all the work that Trump needs him to do to make the case for somebody else to be president. I got to tell you, though, Biden can't read a script, and he can't speak off script. But everybody in his bureaucratic morass who is passing all the regulation and trying to increase all the taxation and trying to run your lives, they know how to stay on script. They are playing exactly to the playbook they want to play. So we can talk about the president being an empty shell, and he is. But if this administration stays in power any longer, all of the things that have made the economy the number one issue are going to get worse, because these guys know how to use Biden. They know how to use him to get their left-wing agenda through. And I got to tell you, it's bad for America, but they're getting a lot of it done right now, Sean.
You know, if you look at immigration, if you look at foreign policy, if you look at the economy, Tommy Lahren, are you still believing he gets replaced between now and Election Day?
I still firmly believe that. But it's not just Joe Biden that's the threat. Brian's exactly right. It's the Democrat leftist agenda that's the real threat. So whether it's Joe Biden up there gaffing or it's Gavin Newsom who's speaking eloquently and able to complete a sentence, it really doesn't matter. The American people need to understand that it's not just whoever has the D behind their name. It's the Democrat agenda itself that's destroying America. So I would ask Americans, go back 4 years ago. Maybe you didn't like the tweets. Maybe you emotionally didn't feel good about the guy in the White House. But economically, fiscally, and safety-wise, you felt pretty good. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll admit that. Remember that and vote on it.
All right, we're running out of time. Brian, is Joe Biden going to be replaced? Do you agree with Tommy, or do you think he makes it?
Oh, no, he's sticking around because the Democrats love everything they can get done through his empty head, apparently, and his inability to have an independent thought. That's all you want if you're a leftist.
The fact that he's kissing the ass of these protesters and taking on Israel has him on the wrong side of history. The American people are watching. That's going to hurt, too. Thank you both. When we come back, Stormy Daniels, former attorney Michael Avenatti, joins us from prison and gives his surprising take on Trump's trial in New York. Straight ahead.